Gone are the days of sending out an email and money just rolls in. No money's just going to fall in your lap. It's follow up and really just building that relationship, making sure that the trust is there, the trust is built.
Thanks for coming on, Dustin. We had a last minute booking, but it's all good. I wanted to introduce you guys to Dustin Miles, who is principal and managing partner at Momentum Multifamily. You guys do deals around Dallas. You probably know about him and Hayden. They focus on operating high performing multifamily assets. And Dustin has over 15 years of experience executing value driven multifamily opportunities. And under his leadership, Momentum has done more than 3,000 units. I think they have a total of around 350 million. And even before founding Momentum, Dustin independently acquired around 1,400 units worth about $100 million. Over the course of his career, has exited quite a bit of multifamily, which I know a lot of you guys are, a lot of the people on this call operate in. And he kind of leads their strategic vision, acquisitions, and asset management initiatives. So really excited to have you on with us, Dustin. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of us are familiar with multifamily, but for those who might not be specifically with your guys' vision, can you briefly describe your business model and what you guys are setting out to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it took a while to kind of mold or craft into where we're at today. But yeah, we see multifamily or our assets as a franchise. So we want same operation, same procedures, same branding. We want everything the same. So our brand in Houston is the Henry. So we have 8 Henrys around Houston right now, a little over 1,800 units down there. And then used to own stuff in DFW right now, but we're looking to build a similar portfolio in the Dallas area as well. Different branding and all that. But yeah, that's how we view apartments. We're just big into systems, big into processes. That's ultimately how you grow.
Absolutely. And what kind of motivated you, even before Momentum, to pursue multifamily and commercial? Like, how'd you get your start? Things like that.
I was trying to do single family. My background's engineering. Went to UT Austin for school. Sorry, Aggies that are on the call. And then got out of school, started working at Lockheed Martin, defense contractor. And anyways, always been entrepreneurial. Had a candy business as a little kid, 8 years old. Bus driver called me the candy man. Went to a bunch of different real estate clubs starting 2006, 2007. Analyzed, probably way over analyzed stuff. Stumbled a little bit, found Lifestyles Unlimited, and then had some success there. Didn't blow it up, but bought half dozen rentals and flips. Had a little bit of success. I bought in 2009, 2010 when prices were really good then for single family. I got into multifamily starting in 2012, just dipping my toes in the water. I was a key principal on a deal, also passive in the deal. So I was passive in a handful of deals. I wanted to make sure it sounded like on paper it worked. I wanted to see it for myself. Put my first deal together in 2014. Brad Sumrock was a coach at Lifestyles Unlimited. And then he went and started his own thing in 2013. So I was in his first wave of students to date, have done 18 deals. I guess I feel like they really haven't, they've gotten larger in size. First deal we bought was 4 million bucks. I raised 1.6 million. I was really nervous. Didn't know what I was doing, but I was trying to follow a system and all that. And anyways, also helped, at least for me, put in a lot of money. So I think people, if nothing else, they trusted me. Oh, you're putting in a lot of money, so I'll follow and do the same. But yeah, before that first raise, I had a lot of lunches and gave them the vision, my buy box. When it came time to raise money, obviously made it a lot easier because I had all those conversations. Yeah, that's where the first 10 or so sold 9 of them, still have 1. And then we shifted from the C class value add to newer stuff around COVID. So most of the portfolio in Houston's 2000 newer. We do have 190s product. Very disciplined as far as where we buy in Houston. We're outside of Beltway 8. We like outside Beltway 8 up to 99 and all that. And so anyways, yeah, a little bit about us and how I got started.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned analyzing and over analyzing. It's something I see a lot. Besides getting with Brad and Lifestyle, did you have any other mentors? Like, how did you acquire the necessary skills in order to do the first deal, or is it just trial by fire?
Yeah, Brad's group helped a lot there. I'd also partnered with someone trying to do everything I could to stack as many cards in my favor. and take as many variables off the table. That was my whole goal. I wasn't looking for a grand slam, although the time that we bought, 2014, if you halfway knew what you were doing, you probably made a lot of money. And we did really well, but I wasn't looking to knock it out of the park. I didn't want a deep value add because there's risk involved in that. I mean, quite a bit of risk. I was still an engineer at Lockheed, so I didn't have the time to babysit. But yeah, I was looking for a single or double and just wanted to provide value to investors.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when it comes to investors, like, how are some ways you implemented to establish credibility? I know you mentioned investing your own money. Is that something that goes a long way for your investors?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much anytime before, I'm sure any people I've raised capital on here have seen the same. Like a question I often get, not every call, but if they're serious about investing, there's like a handful of questions, and that's one of them. And they're like, hey, how much are you putting in? And that goes a long way with people. I suppose tell people we eat our own cooking.
Absolutely. And is there any other ways besides, hey, I'm putting in my own money that shows that you're able to establish authority and credibility with them even before that question comes up?
Yeah, going on podcast and stuff similar to this helps. Speaking on some stages helps. Hosting webinars and all that helps. Having a little bit of a record helps as well. Our brand in Houston is the Henry, which is named after my son. I really want those to do well. So it means an extra amount to me. But yeah, those are some things that we do.
Very cool. I've seen the Henry name around quite a bit with the Alliance and everything, and I never knew that. That's very cool. And I'm sure that resonates with people when you tell them that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of all these deals, obviously, we have to raise money for them. So, can you share an experience from your first capital raise or one of your first ones and any challenges you faced and how you overcame them, even though the capital raising sphere is a little different than it might have been 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
Yeah, and I'll set the stage for what that looked like at that time. So we didn't do webinars. I just sent out an email. It was like a one pager. It looked terrible. A lot of the selling or whatever was at the lunches building up to this deal. You just emailed people and money started rolling in. We didn't have a portal. That wasn't a thing then either. I don't remember when did my first webinar. I think it was like 2008 deals by the time I did my first webinar. And when I did webinar, I was really nervous because I was like, I've done this before. As far as hurdles and things like that, a little different time. There weren't a lot of people, at least within our circles, raising money. There was only one other deal that I knew of raising money at the time, cash rich or investor rich and sponsor poor. Challenges I had because I was new, my net worth wasn't that great. And the people so my first deal was a loan assumption, and these guys were worth a lot of money. If you're familiar with Pacific Palisades, that's where they lived. Really nice part of Southern California. Unfortunately, we had a lot of issues with all the fire stuff, but anyways, super nice part of California, and they were very well off. And so if you're a lender, you're like, why am I going to let this dude take over the loan when I got these bigger fish on the hook? And part of it was helping to convince people to sign on this loan. This was a first deal for a lot of people. And then the other thing, this was all due to lunches and the trust had been built up. And at the time, you also had to show proof of funds. And so I had to collect bank statements from people to help show a certain amount as well. And all those people obviously invested and all that, but there were definitely some hurdles. The capital raise wasn't too bad. I could show a clear value add with the deal, a 9 cap. I think by the time it closed, it's like a 10 cap. So the cash flow was pretty awesome. But it was more of getting people over that fear because this was a first deal for pretty much everyone. Myself. I think there were only one or two other people I had invested into multifamily prior.
Yeah, prior to COVID, really. Maybe we were on Skype if you were doing a webinar, but it was definitely like a foreign concept to do a deal pitch webinar kind of thing. And so that makes a lot of sense. I know that it's changed quite a bit, which we'll get into here in a second. But seeing how there's only a couple people, and now it is permeated throughout basically the whole industry. If you're not learning how to or don't know how to raise money, then deals are pretty tough to do. You can use your own money, but why would we do that, right? When it comes to things like this, webinars, podcasts, like what are your top maybe 3 methods you use now to find and attract passive investors, since it's like a non-negotiable now, right? You have to stand out.
Yeah, we also host podcasts and we do monthly webinars as well. We're just trying to stay in front of people. We also do an in-person meetup as well. But yeah, online's great and all, but in person is really tough to beat. And so, anyways, we try to do a combination of a few things that we feel work. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I know for in-person meetups, a lot of people have trouble organizing them. Like, how do you get people in the door for your in-person? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, it's gotten more challenging. Before COVID, we were 100 plus people every month. It was the largest meetup in DFW, and we were able to get people out there. We had really good speakers. There was a lot of enthusiasm around multifamily in general. And then after COVID, once 2021 hit, there was a ton of interest then as well. So we had good speakers. We've never been afraid or shied away from trying different things. It's hard, just like Houston, it's hard to get from one end of DFW to the other. And so we would host lunches all around and some after work stuff all around DFW, just trying to reach different people. But yeah, it can be a challenge. And so I think having a different spin on things can help. Having some interesting speakers. We'll also team up with other event organizers and have a mega event as well. We did that for a Halloween event. Everyone dressed up and we had prizes, and that was really well received. That was probably our best event this year.
Very cool. Yeah, I know that obviously in person you can't beat, and you can really get a feel for it's easy for someone to say something then hang up on a Zoom when you're in front of
Yep.
them, directly asking them questions. They're, I think, a little more upfront with their expectations and their goals as investor. That makes
Yep.
a lot of sense.
Yep.
And we do these events and this marketing, these podcasts, we build these relationships. And then when we go to launch a deal, what are some of your, outside of just doing the deal pitch webinar, like what are some of your strategies when you're ready to promote and get people in the door? How do you build urgency and things like that?
Yeah, we've tried a few different things in the past. We've thought about offering different incentives for the first million or $2 million that come in, maybe give them a better split or something like that. We've thought about doing that though. Anyways, consult your attorney, make sure you're following all the rules. But I think just prepping people in general, whether it's a call or a Zoom, people usually need more than one or two touches before they're like, oh, okay, this sounds interesting. I think just trying to get some touches in, just trying to make sure that they understand what's going on. Even before that, our webinars were very intentional. The intent is to steer people in a certain direction. So, for instance, we have a case study that we're doing next week. And so the case study is, hey, this is what our deal looks like. So they're familiar with it. So potentially one touch point, or maybe that's multiple touch points if they've been watching our stuff for a while. But it's also very much like what any of our deals look like. And fortunately, we've gotten a really good result from that deal in the first year. It's been challenging on the income front for multifamily in general, but we had a few things that we're able to do on the expense side to reduce expenses. So we had a big NOI jump. So just trying to add value, trying to educate people. No one likes to ever be sold, ever. I don't like to be sold. Most people don't like to be sold. So I just educate people and communicate and just try to be overall helpful. And look, it was actually probably a few $1 million check. His former CEO of a top 100 company, he took the company public and all that, made a whole bunch of money. And we just couldn't, it didn't feel like it just, things didn't align with us, and so we just couldn't move forward, and we honestly really need the money at the time. It was a really challenging capital raising environment, but we just couldn't compromise some things that we believed in.
Yeah, not every investor with money is a good investor, right?
Yep. Yep.
Some people want to invest, some people need to invest. We need to separate those. And also, just because they have a check doesn't mean that they're not going to be a pain to you every single day, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to turn, but that shows your vision of your why, right? Why you're doing it. It's not just about, oh, any check is a check.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was a really tough check to turn down too.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Not just that check, but future ones from that investor.
See,
And
he told us I can get my buddies around, we can fund the whole
mhm.
thing, blah blah blah, and I was like, okay, got
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah, expectations have to be in the right place, so that's really good to know. And you mentioned
yeah.
case studies, and anyone in our intensive, our alliance, case studies are huge because it's
Hmm.
2026 almost. People don't
Hmm.
want to be sold, right?
Yeah.
It is so much easier to show, hey, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's how we help people, and then human nature kicks in. There, well, how do I get involved? And so that is, I really agree with that approach of, hey, here's just a thing we did, here's a deal we're
Yeah.
doing, are you interested? And then we can take it organically from there. And I know that you have a background, obviously engineering, and so your avatar, which is something that I think a lot of people don't spend enough time on, could you describe like your ideal investor profile? And do you target engineers? Like, why do you target the people you do? Kind of give me some more info on that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, kind of engineer, business owner. I don't, honestly, I went to school for engineering, but I probably identify just as well with business owners and all
Mhm.
that. But yeah, I guess maybe engineering background. And there's a lot of, feels like a lot of engineers turn to multifamily. But
Mhm.
yeah, we tend to attract a lot of both those. But yeah, I think with engineers, and look, I'm gonna ask a lot of questions too, but they very numbers driven and tend to ask quite a few questions as well, very detailed. And then a lot of the business owners that we talk to and we work with, they have their main business and they make good money there, and they're just looking to diversify some. And there honestly, there's some cases where they're like, that's a decent return, but in some cases their money is better invested just going back into their business if they get a huge ROI and they don't necessarily need the depreciation or whatnot. Sometimes that's the best place for their cash.
Yeah, and I know this time of year it's usually an easy answer, but do you find that your investors have a primary motivation for investing, like strictly ROI, cash flow? What do you find you get the most need from?
Yeah, the investors you speak to over basically Q4, they're all looking for the taxes. So I remember I was talking to one guy, sold a few hotels, and we didn't have anything for him. And he was just like, look, I'm looking for depreciation. After December 31st, I'm looking for cash flow because I have to replace my cash flow. But yeah, so it just depends. And then we have plenty of people that in the next few years, they're looking to retire and they're looking to replace that cash flow from their job, and they're just looking for ATM money.
Yeah, and that tracks Q4. It's what Tim and what we drive home with a lot of people, and it's hard to really get them interested in anything else but taxes. And then as soon as the next 3 weeks after that, it's cash flow, right? And with the, I guess, public opinion of, and I think it's looking a lot different going into 2026, but the last few years with multifamily has been, depending on who you are, you might have a vastly different opinion on the asset type itself, who is operating that asset. I think the last 3 or 4 years has, like you said, in 2014, 2015, if you are halfway smart, you probably did well, even if you weren't the best
Yeah.
operator, which I think we've seen a lot of the last 3 or 4 years. Those guys usually they're
Hmm.
not around anymore. Do
Nope.
your investors prefer like a single asset type with how things have been going the last few years, or do you find more people wanting a diversified portfolio and seeing if you guys do different kinds of commercial assets?
Yeah, I think I had to be honest, we haven't really raised on the fund side. So we do get that request some, but just because a lot of our investors have, I think if they're newer investors, they may not have as much of a bias one way or the other. Some people will want to see I'm investing in that deal. But I think the people that have invested in multiple, have been investing for a while, they're used to that single deal and analyzing that deal and driving by the deal. And some of
Mm-hmm.
them shopped comps or look whatever. So those guys are going to be all for that single asset. And it's difficult once they've invested that way, and especially they've seen success and all that, like getting them to invest in a fund is going to be pretty challenging, at least from my experience. But I haven't really, just to be honest, I haven't raised for a fund where it's just LP in a deal situation. There's multiple deals. We've done some other preferred equity stuff, but not on the deal side. But I think newer people would be more open to that. I've talked to a lot of, I think there was an investment advisor on here, but the investment advisors that I've talked to have been more interested in the fund model as well.
Yeah, and obviously, you know what we do. We love the fund of funds.
Yeah.
That's our
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right? I think that funds are the last 2 years, especially, have gained a lot of traction and they're becoming more
Mhm.
popular, specifically for capital raisers too,
Yep.
because what we
Yep.
do, we can get into deals like yours without having to go be a GP, right? Which is
Yep.
becoming more attractive to a lot of people. And obviously, we have all of these deals and all these investors, and it can be easy when you have a deal, maybe not easy, but it can be easier when you have a deal to build that relationship because you're building towards something. So whenever
Mhm.
you guys don't have a deal, how do you maintain long-term relationships with investors? Do you guys do like monthly newsletters? Do you send out direct mail? I always use Jeremy Dyer's example. He writes like handwritten notes to his investors, right? So do you guys do anything like that so that after they invest and keeping them top of mind outside of the podcast webinars? Do you guys do anything like that?
Um, Not exactly like that, but we try to have lunches or calls with them in between deals. If they're not accustomed to how we do things, I'll typically walk them through. If we're on Zoom, I'll pull up the pitch deck for the last deal that we did. And these are the things that we really liked about this. And this is what we have seen in a typical deal. This is the type of deal that we're seeing in this environment right now as well. So I'll walk them through that. I don't want to hog their time and spend half an hour or anything like that, but I'll spend 5-10 minutes just walking through the pitch deck, flipping through it, and here's what we're seeing on supply in Houston. It's falling off a cliff right now. These are some of the things that we're really excited about as far as multifamily in Houston. Just hitting some highlights. I'll talk about some deals that we're looking at and some things that we're seeing in the market. I think people like hearing that. One interesting fact for people on this call, I've talked to a few brokers. I don't know this number for Houston, but in DFW, peak foreclosures are supposed to hit about mid next year. So I'll throw out some facts like that or some deals we're looking at that are interesting and what we like about it. People like hearing that.
Keeping it like educational, right? Not
Yeah.
salesy. And that was going to lead to my next question because I think you see it and we see it a lot too. People are so focused on getting the deal done, due diligence, PSA, and the debt and everything. And then they're like, oh, wait, I have to go raise money now. So,
Yeah.
do you guys have a process to ensure funds are readily available? If you guys have 4 or 5 in the pipeline, but you're not doing pitch decks for any one of them yet because they're not under PSA. So, how do you keep the pipeline healthy of funds even when you don't have a deal without needing to hustle once get it all signed? Do you guys have a process behind how you do that, getting soft commitments or anything like that even before you have it under contract?
Yeah, we do. We do soft commits and all that. I will say that it's been more challenging. I'll go back to 2021. 2021, we had a deal. We were raising 15 million. Our soft commits were probably like 40 or 45 million for that deal. And it was just nuts. Anyways, people came in very quickly and those commits obviously converted and all that. What we've seen the last few years is soft commits have people not as interested anymore or going after
Mm.
another deal or whatever. It's been interesting. I don't know what the percentages are, but the percentage of soft commits that have followed through has dropped pretty dramatically the past few years. But yeah, we do soft commits and then there's just a lot of follow up. Gone are the days of sending out an email and money just rolls in. No
Mm.
money is just going to fall in your lap. It's follow up and really just building that relationship, making sure that the trust is there, the trust is built. But yeah, it's follow up. You need to call, you need to text, all the above.
They need to feel special. You got to make them feel
Yeah.
wanted and all of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a good rule of thumb that we tell people is you need to raise 5 million, you better have 10 and soft commits at least, right?
Yep.
Because people are
Yep.
finicky, especially in this kind of economy the last couple of years, anything can happen. And that 40 million, I'm sure that was a tough one to swallow. Having that much in soft commits and then still having to go find it.
Oh, I wanted to say on the 40 million, we had to turn away a ton of people. I remember when we were funding for that deal, I went to the gym. I was there for 2 hours. I never worked out. I was confirming wiring instructions the entire time. We could have funded 2 deals probably pretty easily.
Still
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
right? Where you could get it. So many people saying yes before you need it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that
Cool.
you guys don't do a lot of funds, but I'm curious on obviously we worked with you guys with fund of funds. How do you guys typically approach bringing on capital raisers into your deals? What are some of the things you look for before you bring on a fund of funds and see if they're a good fit for you guys to raise?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've raised capital for a while and know how it goes, especially if you're newer to this, it can be challenging. Even if you've done a deal, following it up pretty closely with a second deal, that reload process can be really challenging. We've been doing this for a while. I understand all that. Honestly, communication is a really big thing for us. Communication effort, really. Those are the people that we've really enjoyed working with the most. Honestly, they haven't necessarily been the people that raised the most money, but communication effort, as you mentioned, it's been challenging in multifamily. I think we're turning the corner right now, and there's some super interesting deals we're very interested in. The past few years have been challenges. You were talking about operators that are no longer operating because it's a big filter process. You're really seeing the cream rise to the top. There's so many good people in the multifamily community. It's a real honor and a privilege. You get to talk to professional athletes, high net worth billionaires. It's a really neat space to be in and work with high caliber people.
Yeah, it's a smaller industry than people think, right? You meet people all
Yeah.
the time, like, oh, especially working for Tim because he's so outgoing. I meet people like, oh, yeah, I know Tim, and I've
Yeah.
never heard
Yeah.
their name before, or they're not on our list or anything like that. It's definitely, and it's even gotten smaller the last few years. And I know that you started right after 2008 with the market crash and everything like that. We've had, I wouldn't call it a market crash, but with the rate hikes and everything post COVID, I know that a lot of operators had a lot of trouble with underwriting at more aggressive caps and everything like that. So, what kind of challenges did you guys encounter during that 21 to 23 when a lot of these big deals got into problems, had capital calls? Did you guys face any of those, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it was really challenging. If you bought the, no one wants to talk about this, or at least I haven't seen it a whole lot, but if you bought a deal in 21, 22, you had to figure something out. And so you had four options. The first one's terrible, like you sell at a loss or a complete loss. No one wants that. Another one is you go get preferred equity, but if you're going to get preferred equity, how are you going to pay for them? There's that. Or you could do a capital call, but a lot of times, because frankly, the values went down 25, 30%, and you'd have to be a pretty large capital call in order to make that work. I think it was a little bit of luck and it was a lot of hard work too. We went into the tax abatement game pretty early, 23. So we started the tax abatement process. So for those of you that aren't familiar with tax abatements, all these properties are in Texas. Property taxes are high in Texas. We don't have income tax. So everybody's going to get their money somehow. There's property taxes and they're pretty high. Our property tax number is between the lowest ones like 400,000. Our highest ones like 1.5 million. With tax abatement, basically you apply, you get approved. It's so much work. But anyways, your taxes are abated. So, if your NOI goes up by $1 million, that's a good day. And it depends on your cap rate and all that. But that's a huge boost in value. So that's the path that we did. I'm just being very transparent. We did two capital calls. We didn't have to for the tax abatement, but we ended up having to do two capital calls. One of them, the lender wanted us to do the tax abatement. We had to pay down the loan $1 million, and then the tax abatement is expensive. It was basically $2 million. Fortunately, we tend to carry a lot of cash for our deals, so that's most of where that money came from. But we did have to do a portion of that was the capital call and all that. On one deal we did, I think it was their $700,000 capital call. It wasn't very much compared to how much we raised, but we increased the value of the property $12 million off of that capital call. Our property taxes were $1 million or so. That was a really big win for investors, and we're in the process of refining that in HUD right now. Anyways, that's how we tackled deals from 21, 22. Like I said, if someone bought in 21, 22, they had to go figure it out. If they said everything's rosy and peachy and all that, then anyways, I won't say they're lying, but it's very challenging and you had to figure something out. Anyways, yeah, that's how we tackled it. Like I said, it's been a heck of a lot of work. We just closed on one of the tax abatements that we've been working on since December of 23.
Yeah. And it's funny because like capital call obviously is like your last resort for a lot of operators, but like the one deal you just brought up, not all of them are created equal, number
Yep.
one. And how do
Yep.
you take that capital call and solve the problem without like alienating your investors, right?
Yeah.
Just sounds like you
Yeah.
guys did a good job of navigating, but obviously not everyone did, which
Yep.
is why I like to see you guys are still here. You guys are doing very well. So we did something right, but very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of the market and how things were going, how do you see more people are coming off the sidelines for 2026? What are some of your predictions for the next year, 18 months for multifamily specifically? And how are you guys preparing to take on the landscape as it changes?
Yeah, so we're looking at a number of deals. We just offered on one deal where it's millions of dollars below the loan balance. It's in Dallas. It's in a great part of town. It's 2,000 plus product. So we're seeing quite a bit of that. Really just a flight to quality, looking for opportunities. There's a few deals that we've looked at. One of them about to offer on where the operator has been kicked out. So we're potentially taking over for not a whole lot of cash. With that potential scenario, your IRR would be really attractive. So we've looked at some stuff like that as well. Over the past year or so, 50% of the deals that go under contract don't actually close. So we're getting a bunch of callbacks on deals right now where they're like, hey, are you still interested in that deal? It's still hanging out there. So it's very interesting right now. It's a buyer's market. Sellers are willing to get creative where they haven't before. Lenders are starting to get creative as well. Hey, will you take over this loan? We'll give you 90% and we'll give you really good terms. We just need someone because these lenders are not set up to operate. We've seen stuff like that. So it's getting really interesting. I think, I don't know how long the window is. I'd say 12 to 18 months. But like I mentioned, DFW foreclosures peak mid next year. And so, anyways, there's just a lot of opportunity. I think the people that get off the sidelines and take action will be rewarded. And I don't know, it feels like everyone was survived at 25. I don't know what the saying is for 26, but I think people that buy over the next year are going to be rewarded probably in 28 or so when the market starts really coming back.
You
Yeah,
got to be
yeah.
optimistic with where things are at, but deals are looking better. I think that more investors, like we talked about earlier, are maybe not as hesitant because a lot of those deals that the 21, 22 deals are either fixed or sold for a loss. Like those are out of sight, out of mind. And so now things are maybe getting back to normal, if that's what you want to say. But I do agree
Yeah.
that the people that over the next year take action, I think will be rewarded and maybe not have as much analysis paralysis as we've seen the last 12 to
Yeah.
24 months. Awesome. Very good insight. And we're always, a lot of us are wrong all the time, but you've probably been right more than me. So I'll take it.
Matthew said
And
we will be in heaven in 27. So there you go.
yeah, exactly. That's kind of the mindset you have to have, right? There's always opportunity somewhere. So I like your mindset on that. And so I'm curious for the back end of what you guys do. Do you have any favorite tools or resources like syndication software, content creation that you guys rely on?
Yeah, we've been building a lot of our own tools. We're putting together some different things that can help speed some of that up. A lot of that's being built in-house. One thing that can be a little cumbersome when you're doing a remodel, especially if you're flying through units, we have an app that helps out quite a bit with that. And we're implementing some AI into that as well to help out on the property side as far as analyzing certain property. A few years ago, we put together Excel or Google Sheets. We call it a WMR, so weekly management report. The managers have to fill that out each week. It probably takes them, if they know what they're doing, 15, 20 minutes. What I really like about that, and it's not very complicated, a lot of questions. There's probably 80 or so. What that I get to see trends over time. We're very big on the easy ones are income and occupancy and all that, but we really watch Google reviews. We really watch it's called a maintenance summary. So maintenance summary is the number of days before when people put in a maintenance ticket, how long does it take for that maintenance to get wrapped up? It's not complicated, and we're going to be inserting some AI around that WMR, but that's one of my favorite things that I like. It's feedback directly from the property manager. It's also a good way for us to know whether they're on their game. It's also a good way for them because as they're filling it in, it tells them, it's a reminder of what their goals are. And they're seeing this each and every week. So it's more manual than anything else. And we don't want to automate that. We want them to physically put that in because we want them to know where they're at. Is there a gap? How much is it? And how much they need to push. And it's a huge accountability tool for us with our managers.
Yeah, and that's two things that I don't know if obviously a lot of people focus, right? Income,
Sure. Yeah.
vacancy rates and things like that, but something like Google reviews,
Yeah.
right? That's important. Like the way people operate, right? They go see a bunch of terrible reviews about your apartment. They might not even do a tour or anything like that. And then even the
Yep.
maintenance requests, right? I know living in an
Yep.
apartment, if you put something in, they don't come for 3 hours. Now I'm gonna go complain to the property manager and no one's
Yeah.
happy.
Yep.
So that's
Yep.
really cool that those are two things that you guys are focusing on that I don't hear very often. I'm sure a lot of people
Yeah.
do it, but people talk about it.
Yeah, and their bonuses are tied to those
Really?
items too. They're incentivized. Everybody's on the same page. And then I mentioned too, one thing, I'm really proud of is so we just bought a deal 2 months ago, but all the other deals are at a Google rating of 4.0 or above. And that was really hard to do. Most of them that we bought started at 3.2, 3.3, pretty low, especially if you have a lot of reviews. It was probably 100 reviews, 100 5-star reviews, or maybe more to get that up to 4. It's a lot of work.
And you always hear the old thing that people don't leave reviews because they're happy. So the
Right.
negative ones stand out the most. So
Yeah.
it's even harder. Awesome. That's an idea for some of you guys. Maybe tie some of your property managers' bonuses and things like that to those too. That's a really good idea. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I'm curious, the question that a lot of people get, but I think it is an interesting one. If you could go back and restart your journey, would you do anything differently or change anything about your process of how you got here?
In 2014, I would buy everything that came out on the market. And then I would sell 2 or 3 years later. We bought a 9 or a 10 cap and cap rates were compressing. I would have bought everything under the sun. But yeah, all kidding aside, I think we were really spoiled on the operation side initially and spoiled honestly in a lot of ways. So I think just really honing in on operations, and not to say we didn't have to operate, but you had rents jumping up, you had cap rates coming down, you had tons of people move into these metros. It was the perfect recipe for success for multifamily. You had good lending as well. Learning how to operate. When I first started, it was you put in vinyl flooring, you put in two-tone paint, that's $150 more per month. That's what it was. And every 6 months, you raised rent $50 a month. It was pretty sweet. So just really honing in on and gathering a lot of skills along the way, I think would have been smart. Not to say I wasn't trying and all that, but I think a different color of lens, a different environment.
Yeah. You don't know when it's happening that, oh, I'll always get 90% LTV.
Yeah,
I'll always
yeah,
always get nine
yeah,
caps. You don't
yeah.
know, you don't think about it that way. Insights 2020. Very cool. But I think that's a good answer nonetheless. So obviously you guys have both before Momentum and then since you guys have been doing this together with Hayden and everything, what's some advice you would give to someone who aspires to raise the amount of capital you guys have done and get to a few hundred million, but maybe it doubts their ability to achieve it, especially given hearing things like this? Oh, it used to be easier. Now it's much tougher. Now there's all these doubts around multifamily. What's some advice you would give them to keep going?
Yeah, I think so if you haven't raised any money and you're just starting out, I think the first thing I would do is build a relationship with a few operators that you can know and trust and look for some situations where you can get like again, don't look for the home run or grand slam. If you get it, awesome, that's great, but look for some wins for your investors. Once people start seeing some distributions and all that, they're like, wow, this really works. And you want, like, you naturally, if you have the capital, like, you want to do more. So I think looking for those wins and then just, yeah, continuing to build those relationships. This is something that we've done with some of our partners as well, as in between deals, a deal that they're in or whatever, we'll do a case study with them. And that's just how that's gone. I think that'll really help them and help us as well. So I think those are a few things. And there's a lot of easy things that they can do I've seen plenty of people on LinkedIn do kind of Zoom chats. There's one guy that does 5 a.m. Arizona time every Friday. I think just doing some events and just trying to build those relationships. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And I feel like the way it was a lot more in person when I started, and then it got to where you just fired an email and then you got a bunch of money. And I feel like now it's gone back to more of those personal relationships. And obviously, there's texting and AI and all that can help too. But I think just building that relationship, getting some wins on the board for your investors is key.
Yeah, and I like that you stress the investors because at the end of the day, we can't do any of it without the investors. Like we've mentioned a couple times, sometimes they need to have their hand held,
Yep.
tell them everything's
Yep.
going to be all right. And whenever you're finding a deal that works for them, not one that you want, go, I want to do deal in Houston. Maybe
Yep.
your investors like Dallas more. And that's something that
Yep.
you have to struggle
Yep.
with and say, okay, maybe I need to go make relationships with people in Dallas so that these people will be comfortable and trust me. And then I can relay that trust into an operator and whether I co-GP or fund of funds, whatever the case is. But you've been super generous with your time. Thanks for coming. I know it's the last minute, but it's always good to talk to you and to Hayden and you guys with Momentum. How can the audience maybe support or give back to you? Any kind of webinar, anything you guys are doing anytime soon? And how can they,
Um,
give back?
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so that's a good way. I think I put my stuff in the chat earlier too. Okay, thank you. LinkedIn's good, email's good. Yeah, anything I can do to help, just let me know. And yeah, I love meeting new people and just trying to add some value.
Absolutely. And what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you if they're interested in partnering in your deals or investing?
Yeah, just go to momentummultifamily.com. You can click on the portal, invest through there, and see the latest offerings. I believe you can book a call from there as well. Look forward to chatting with people and seeing how we can add value.
Awesome. Very cool. I really appreciate you coming on with us, Dustin.